So, Howard, what South Asian piece of history do you wish you'd been taught when you were younger?
So I was thinking about this question because I was lucky enough to be taught a less whitewashed history curriculum than most of my peers when I was younger because I was home educated until I was 16. So me and my parents basically picked what sort of history we wanted to learn about. So for example, at GCSE, when everyone else was just doing, I think they were doing like medicine through time. I think that's what it was called.
Yeah,
It sounded really boring to me, whatever it was.
I loved it.
Like, okay. um, but I learned about the Israel-Palestine conflict, for example, and I've never seen that. Like I've never had a fellow peer say, "Oh, we've learned about like anything related to Arab history." I know it's not South Asian history, but as an example. But when I look back now, I think even then, even though I was able to pick the courses I wanted to do at GCSE, I still didn't have any South Asian history options, like based on the overall national curriculum. And that was the case until I got to second year of uni. I think the first time I ever learned any South Asian history from like a teacher was in my second year in like second semester, and then it was just partition. That was it. So it was still like the most basic of basic South Asian history. But I think overall, I don't think there's one specific piece of history I wish I'd been taught. I just wish that I'd been given a more like holistic and less Eurocentric perspective of the stuff that we are already taught. So like we've been talking about already, for example, like the world wars, everyone just thinks of them as white. Like the suffragettes, everyone thinks of them as white. So I think I wish I'd been given a more critical narrative of the history that's already in the curriculum. For example, Gandhi, like everyone thinks he's just a heroic person, and I'm like, this guy is racist as well. Like, please have a more broad mindset when you're teaching things. Like everyone, like I think it doesn't matter who I talk to, whatever ethnicity, whatever race, I mention Gandhi, and they're like, "Oh yeah, the non-violent independence movement," and I'm like, "And what else?" Like there is more to his whole life than that. So yeah, I think there wasn't. I don't think I ever thought throughout my whole time of studying history that there was one thing I was like, "Oh, I wish I'd been taught that." It was more the things that I was already being taught. I wanted a more diverse perspective of them.
Yeah, that's really great to hear. Like, it's definitely important to criticize the sort of narrative that we hear so often, like, this Eurocentric view or this white lens. Yeah, I think it's important to question the history that we're taught. And you laughed before when I said that I actually enjoyed the medicine through time. And you know why I enjoyed it? It wasn't because just medicine or whatnot. It was because we were actually I think taught about a few Muslim doctors at the time who had found like new I think cures or like for new diseases. And I remember at the time, even though they weren't South Asian, I think they were like Middle Eastern doctors. Um, I remember at the time thinking, oh wow, like that Muslim doctor like found the cure for that. And like that's really cool. And I was in a Christian school as well, so I was like really surprised, like that we were even taught about like a doctor called like Ibn Sina. And I remember writing about him in my exam, and I literally did like probably over a page on that specific doctor because I was just so like passionate about the fact that we had like some sort of history on like a Muslim doctor, at least, even though it wasn't South Asian history. It was something that's still relatable to me, and I think that's why I did enjoy that part of my history like content. But overall, like we know, like it's still very underrepresentative of South Asian people and other ethnic minorities too in the curriculum.
Yeah, I think it actually makes me sad when I get excited about learning about any person of color in history because it means I've not been taught about it enough. Like as soon as a brown name or like someone,
Yes.
any person of color at all, so a teacher mentions it and I'm like, wait, what? Like we're being taught something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like we'll have made progress when it's not such a novelty, and like I don't get so excited about people talking about South Asian history or any type of history unrelated to like British or just white history in general.